The green plastic chair in the doctor's waiting room was uncomfortable. Maria Santos shifted her weight, trying to find a better position. At 71 years old, everything seemed to hurt these days. Her back ached. Her heart ached even more. 6 months. That's how long it had been since Thomas died. The waiting room smelled like cleaning supplies and sadness. Other sick people sat around her, coughing and sniffling. Maria clutched her purse tighter and stared at the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Time moved so slowly when you were alone. Then her phone rang. The sound made her jump. Maria fumbled in her purse, her fingers shaking slightly. Who could be calling? Maybe it was Dr. Peterson's office, telling her the appointment was ready. But when she looked at the screen, her heart did a little flip. It was Isabella, her daughter, her only child. "Hello, sweetheart," Maria said, smiling for the first time all day. Isabella had been so good to her since Thomas passed away, coming to visit 3 times a week, helping with groceries, being the perfect daughter. But the voice that came through the phone was cold, colder than winter rain. "Mom, we're going on a trip to Europe tomorrow." Maria blinked. "That's wonderful, dear. How exciting for you and Carlos. When will you be back?" "I already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." The line went dead. Maria stared at her phone, certain she had heard wrong. The beach house? Their beautiful beach house, where they had spent every summer for 20 years? The house where Isabella had brought every boyfriend, where they had celebrated birthdays and holidays, where Thomas had taught Isabella to swim. And the car? Thomas's old truck that he had loved like a baby? The truck that still smelled like his aftershave and coffee? Sold? Without even asking? The phone slipped from Maria's fingers and clattered to the floor. A woman sitting nearby gave her a concerned look, but Maria barely noticed. The world seemed to spin around her. 45 years. 45 years of raising Isabella, changing her diapers, walking the floor with her when she had fevers, staying up all night helping with homework, working extra jobs to buy her school clothes and pay for college. 45 years of sacrifice. And this is how Isabella repaid her? By stealing everything she had left of Thomas? By treating her like garbage? Maria bent down slowly to pick up her phone. Her hands were shaking, but not from sadness. Something else was building inside her chest. Something that felt like calm. For the first time in 6 months, Maria didn't cry. She sat back in that uncomfortable green chair and took a deep breath. Around her, other people continued coughing and flipping through old magazines. The clock kept ticking. But something had changed inside Maria's heart. She remembered something important. 3 days before Thomas died, he had given her a manila envelope. It was thick and heavy, filled with papers she couldn't see. "Maria," he had said in his gentle voice, "put this in your dresser drawer. If something happens to me, open it when you feel ready. But only when you're truly ready." She had tucked it away without thinking much about it. After the funeral, with all the grief and sadness, she had completely forgotten. There had been so many things to arrange, so many people to thank, so many tears to cry. But now, sitting in this waiting room after her daughter's betrayal, Maria remembered that envelope clearly. Thomas had always been smart about money. Even when he was just a bus driver, he had a way of making their dollars stretch. He never wasted anything. He always planned ahead. He always took care of her. Maybe, just maybe, Thomas had planned for this too. Maria Santos? A nurse in blue scrubs called her name. Maria stood up slowly, straightening her shoulders. She felt different now. Stronger. Like she had a secret weapon that Isabella didn't know about. As she walked toward the doctor's office, Maria almost smiled. Her daughter thought she was clever. Isabella thought she had left her mother with nothing. No house. No car. No way to fight back. But Isabella didn't know about the envelope. She didn't know that Thomas Santos had always been full of surprises. And she was about to learn that you should never underestimate a woman who has been pushed too far. The doctor's appointment could wait. Maria had more important business to take care of. She had an envelope to open. The doctor's voice seemed far away as he checked Maria's blood pressure. Everything looks good, Mrs. Santos. You're healthy for your age. Just need more rest and better meals. Maria nodded and smiled, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. She was thinking about that morning 6 months ago when her world crashed down. Thomas had been making breakfast, just like every morning for 45 years. Coffee with cream for her, toast with butter, a kiss on her forehead and his daily "Good morning, my love." Then he sat down across from her at their little kitchen table. The same table where they had shared thousands of meals, where Isabella had done her homework as a child, where they had planned their dreams together. Thomas took one bite of toast, one sip of coffee. Then his eyes went wide. His hand flew to his chest, and he was gone. Just like that. No warning, no goodbye, no chance to tell him she loved him one more time. Maria had screamed and called 911, but it was too late. The paramedics said it was a massive heart attack. He probably didn't feel any pain, but Maria felt everything. After the funeral, Isabella had become the perfect daughter. Or so Maria thought. "Mom, you can't stay in this big house alone," Isabella had said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Let me help you with everything." Isabella came by 3 times a week. She brought groceries and cooked dinner. She helped organize Thomas's clothes for donation. She even suggested the doctor's appointment. "You need to take better care of yourself now that you're alone," Isabella would say with that sweet smile. But now Maria understood the truth. That smile wasn't love. It was greed. Isabella had been playing the long game, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, making herself look like the caring daughter so no one would question her when she stole everything. The beach house meant everything to Maria and Thomas. They had saved for years to buy it when Isabella was 15. Every penny they could spare went toward that dream. Thomas worked overtime driving his bus routes. Maria took on extra cleaning jobs. But it was worth it. Every summer, they would pack up their old truck and drive to the coast. Isabella would bring her friends, then later her boyfriends, and finally Carlos, when they got married. Maria would spend those summers cooking for everyone, making pancakes for breakfast, grilling burgers for lunch, preparing big family dinners while everyone else played in the waves. She never minded the work. She loved having her family together. Isabella's wedding had been on that beach. Maria had decorated everything herself. She had stayed up all night before the ceremony, stringing lights and arranging flowers. Her feet ached and her back hurt, but seeing Isabella's happy face made it all worthwhile. Or so she thought. Now Maria realized Isabella had probably been calculating the house's value, even on her wedding day. And the truck. Oh, Thomas's beloved truck. That old Ford pickup wasn't worth much money, but it held priceless memories. Thomas washed it every Sunday morning like it was a luxury car. He changed the oil religiously. He always parked it in the same shady spot under the big oak tree. "This truck is going to outlast us both," Thomas would joke, patting the dashboard lovingly. The seats still smelled like his cologne and the peppermints he always kept in the cup holder. Sometimes Maria would sit in the truck just to feel close to him again. Isabella knew how much that truck meant to her mother. She had seen Maria cry in it. She had watched her hold Thomas's old baseball cap that he kept on the seat. But Isabella sold it anyway. Like it was nothing. Like Thomas was nothing. Like Maria's broken heart didn't matter at all. "You can take the bus," Isabella had probably thought. "Old people don't need cars." The doctor finished his examination and handed Maria a prescription for vitamins. "Make sure you eat regular meals, Mrs. Santos. And don't hesitate to call if you need anything." If only he knew what she really needed. She needed her daughter to have a heart. She needed Thomas back. She needed someone in her family to actually care about her. But as Maria walked slowly to the bus stop, she felt that strange calm returning. Maybe she didn't need Isabella's fake love after all. Maybe Thomas had left her something better than a manipulative daughter and a greedy son-in-law. The bus arrived and Maria climbed aboard carefully. She found a window seat and watched the city pass by. All these people rushing around with their own problems, their own secrets, their own surprises waiting at home. Maria had a surprise too. a manila envelope full of mysteries. And suddenly, she couldn't wait to get home and discover what Thomas had been hiding all these years. The bus rumbled down the street, carrying Maria toward her destiny, toward the truth that would change everything. Isabella thought she had won. But the game wasn't over yet. The bus bounced and swayed as it made its way through the busy streets. Maria pressed her face against the cool window and watched the world go by. Cars honked. People hurried along sidewalks. Life continued as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed for Maria. This morning, she had woken up thinking she was poor and alone. She had a daughter who cared about her. She had a beach house and a truck. She had something. Now she had nothing. At least, that's what Isabella thought. The bus stopped at a red light next to a fancy restaurant. Through the big windows, Maria could see people eating expensive meals and laughing with their families. Happy families who probably didn't steal from each other. Maria wondered if Isabella and Carlos were already spending her money on their European vacation. Probably staying in fancy hotels, eating at expensive restaurants, buying designer clothes and souvenirs, all paid for by selling the things Thomas had worked so hard to give her. Next stop, Maple Street, the bus driver called out. That was Maria's stop. The street where she had lived with Thomas for 20 years. The house where they had been truly happy. As the bus slowed down, Maria felt her heart beating faster. The manila envelope was waiting for her. Thomas's final gift. His last surprise. What if it was just old insurance papers? What if there was nothing important inside? What if Thomas hadn't planned ahead like she hoped?
No.
Maria shook her head firmly. Thomas had always taken care of her. Always. Even when money was tight, he found a way. Even when things looked impossible, he made them work. Thomas Santos didn't do anything without a reason. The bus doors opened with a loud hiss. Maria stepped down carefully, holding the rail. Her knees weren't what they used to be. Getting old was hard when you had to do it alone. But maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. Maria walked slowly down Maple Street. She passed Mrs. Chen's house with its beautiful rose garden. She waved to Mr. Rodriguez, who was washing his car in his driveway. Normal people living their normal lives. They had no idea that Maria's world had been turned upside down today. They couldn't see the betrayal burning in her chest. They didn't know that everything she thought she knew about her daughter was a lie. Maria's house came into view. The little blue house with white shutters that Thomas had painted himself. The house where Isabella had taken her first steps. Where she had learned to ride a bike. Where she had brought Carlos to meet her parents for the first time. Maria remembered that day clearly. Isabella had been so nervous. Mom, Dad, I want you to meet someone special, Isabella had said, her cheeks pink with excitement. Carlos had shaken Thomas's hand and complimented Maria's cooking. He seemed polite and respectful. He thanked them for dinner and helped clear the table. But Maria had noticed something in his eyes. Something cold and calculating. Like he was measuring everything in the house, figuring out what it might be worth. Thomas had noticed too. Later that night, he had whispered to Maria in bed. I don't trust that boy, Maria. There's something about him that doesn't sit right. But Isabella was in love. And when your child is happy, you want to be happy too. So Maria and Thomas had welcomed Carlos into their family. Now Maria realized Thomas had been right all along. Carlos had probably been the one pushing Isabella to sell everything. He had probably convinced her that Maria was just a burden. An old woman who didn't deserve to keep her memories. Maria reached her front door and fumbled for her keys. The house felt so empty without Thomas. So quiet. Sometimes she would call out, I'm home, just to hear a voice, even if it was only her own. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. The house smelled like the lavender potpourri Isabella had brought last week. Another fake gesture of care. Maria walked through the living room, past the couch where she and Thomas used to watch their evening shows. Past the kitchen table where he had collapsed that terrible morning. Past all the memories that Isabella thought were worthless. Her bedroom was at the end of the hall. The room she had shared with Thomas for so many years. The bed felt too big now. Too empty. But tonight, maybe she would sleep better. Tonight, She might have hope again. Maria sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her dresser. The old wooden dresser Thomas had bought at a garage sale 30 years ago. He had sanded it down and painted it white for her. "Every queen needs a proper vanity," he had joked. The envelope was in the top drawer, underneath her scarves and jewelry, waiting patiently, like a secret treasure. Maria's hands trembled as she reached for the drawer handle. This was it, the moment of truth. In a few minutes, she would know if Thomas had really planned ahead, or if Isabella had truly left her with nothing. The drawer opened with a soft creak. There it was, the manila envelope with her name written in Thomas's careful handwriting. Maria in black ink, with little hearts dotting the I's. Even in his most serious moments, Thomas had been romantic. Maria picked up the envelope. It was heavier than she remembered, thick with papers and possibilities. Whatever was inside would change her life forever. She was ready. Maria's fingers traced Thomas's handwriting on the envelope. Her heart pounded so loud, she could hear it in the quiet house. This was the moment that would change everything. She opened the envelope slowly, like unwrapping a precious birthday gift. Papers spilled onto her lap. Legal documents with fancy letterheads. Bank certificates with official stamps. Property deeds with addresses she didn't recognize. And at the very top, a handwritten letter in Thomas's familiar writing. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she began to read. "My dearest Maria, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Please don't cry, my love. I am watching over you, and I have made sure you will be taken care of forever." Maria's hands shook as she continued reading. "Forgive me for keeping secrets, but I wanted to protect you from worry. You know I was always good with numbers, even as a bus driver. Every penny we saved, every dollar we didn't spend on fancy things, I invested wisely." Invested? Thomas had been investing their money, but they barely had enough for groceries some months. "Maria, my beautiful wife, you are rich. You always were rich in love and kindness, but now you are rich in money too. We don't just have our little beach house. We own 6 other properties." Maria dropped the letter and grabbed the property deeds with shaking fingers. She read address after address. A downtown apartment building with 20 floors. A beachfront condo worth more than most people's houses. 2 rental houses in the nicest part of town. A small motel near the coast that brought in money every month. And a commercial building where 3 businesses paid rent. But the biggest shock was yet to come. The 20-story apartment building on Sunset Avenue. Maria knew that address. She had been there many times. It was where Isabella and Carlos lived. Maria stared at the deed in disbelief. According to the papers, Thomas had owned that building for 10 years. But he had kept it secret by putting everything under the name of a company called Santos Family Enterprises. And according to the legal documents, Maria was now the sole owner of that company. Her daughter had been paying rent to her own mother for 10 years and never knew it. But there was more. Maria found bank statements for accounts she had never heard of. Account numbers with balances that seemed impossible. Numbers with so many zeros she had to count them twice. $2,847,000 in the first account. $1,653,000 in the second. $892,000 in the third. Maria's head spun. She felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. Thomas had been a bus driver. They shopped at discount stores and used coupons for everything. She picked up Thomas's letter again with trembling hands. "I know this is shocking, my love. But every sacrifice we made, I turned into an opportunity. When you worked extra cleaning jobs so we could save money, I invested those savings in the stock market. When we bought generic food instead of name brands, I used the difference to buy shares in companies. You remember when I worked overtime driving weekend routes? I wasn't just earning extra money. I was learning about the city. I saw which neighborhoods were growing, which areas would become valuable. And slowly, carefully, I started buying properties. Everything I bought, I put in our company name. I never wanted you to worry about business decisions or rental problems. I wanted you to focus on being the amazing wife and mother you always were." Maria wiped tears from her eyes and kept reading. But here's the most important part, Maria. I kept it all secret because I didn't want Isabella to know about our real wealth. You know our daughter better than anyone. If she knew we had so much money, she would become greedy. She would start treating us differently. Thomas had been right. Even without knowing about the fortune, Isabella had still stolen from her own mother. What would she have done if she knew about millions of dollars? The lawyers at Henderson and Associates know everything, Thomas's letter continued. They have been managing our investments for years. I'll call them tomorrow, and they will help you with everything. Maria, my darling wife, you never have to worry about money again. You can live anywhere you want, do anything you want, travel the world, or stay home and tend your garden. The choice is yours. But remember this, you earned every penny through 45 years of love, sacrifice, and supporting me. You deserve all of it. And if Isabella or anyone else tries to take advantage of you, you now have the power to protect yourself. You are not helpless. You are not alone. You are a wealthy woman with options. The letter was signed with Thomas's usual "Forever yours," with all my love and 3 little hearts. Maria set the letter down and looked around her bedroom. Everything looked the same, but everything had changed. This morning, she thought she was poor and powerless. Isabella had stolen her house and car, leaving her with nothing. But Isabella had made one huge mistake. She didn't steal everything. She stole a beach house worth maybe $200,000 and an old truck worth $5,000. Meanwhile, her mother owned properties worth millions, including the very apartment building where Isabella lived. Maria began to laugh. Softly at first, then louder. She laughed until tears streamed down her face. She laughed until her sides hurt. Tomorrow, she would call the lawyers. Tomorrow, she would learn exactly how rich she really was. But tonight, she would sleep peacefully for the first time in months. Because tomorrow, Isabella was going to get the surprise of her life. Maria woke up the next morning feeling like a new woman. The sun streamed through her bedroom window, and for the first time in months, she felt truly alive. She had slept peacefully, dreaming of Thomas's proud smile. He had taken care of her even after death. He had given her the ultimate gift, the power to stand up for herself. After a simple breakfast of coffee and toast, the same breakfast she and Thomas had shared for 45 years, Maria picked up her phone and dialed the lawyer's number. Henderson and Associates, how may I help you? This is Maria Santos. I believe you have been managing some investments for my late husband, Thomas? Mrs. Santos, we've been waiting for your call. Mr. Thomas left very specific instructions. Can you come in today? 2 hours later, Maria sat in a fancy law office with leather chairs and expensive paintings. Mr. Henderson, a kind man with gray hair, spread papers across a polished wooden table. Mrs. Santos, your husband was a brilliant investor. These properties are worth approximately $8.7 million. The business investments are worth another $3.2 million, and the cash accounts total just over $5 million. Maria nearly fell out of her chair. $17 million? Give or take a few $100,000, yes, ma'am. Maria thought about Isabella on her airplane to Europe, probably bragging to Carlos about how clever she was. How she had gotten $200,000 for the beach house and $5,000 for the old truck. She had stolen $205,000 and left behind $17 million. Now, Mr. Henderson continued, your husband left specific instructions about the Sunset Avenue apartment building. He said if anyone ever tried to take advantage of you, you should use it to teach them a lesson. Maria smiled. Thomas knew her so well. What can I do? Well, you own the building. You can raise rent, renovate apartments, or... He paused dramatically. You can evict tenants who break their lease agreements. Maria's eyes sparkled. And if someone lies on their rental application, or doesn't pay rent on time? Grounds for immediate eviction. That afternoon, Maria took her first taxi in years to Sunset Avenue. She had money for taxis now. Money for anything she wanted. The apartment building was beautiful. 20 floors of glass and brick, with a doorman and a fancy lobby. Isabella and Carlos lived on the 15th floor in a luxury apartment with a view of the city. They paid $3,500 rent every month to Santos Family Enterprises. To Maria. Maria walked into the building manager's office. "Hello, I'm Maria Santos, the new owner." The manager, a nervous young man named David, nearly dropped his coffee. "Mrs. Santos, I had no idea you were coming today. I need to review the rental applications for apartment 15C, Isabella and Carlos Martinez." David pulled out a thick file. As Maria read through it, her eyebrows rose higher and higher. Carlos had lied about his income. He claimed to make $80,000 a year, but his real salary was only $45,000. Isabella had claimed to be employed full-time, but she only worked part-time at a clothing store. Lying on a rental application was grounds for immediate eviction. But Maria had a better plan. "David, I want you to call apartment 15C. Tell them the building owner wants to meet with them personally. Today at 4 p.m. At exactly 4 p.m., Isabella and Carlos knocked on the manager's office door. They looked tanned and relaxed from their European vacation, wearing expensive new clothes bought with Maria's stolen money. "Come in," David called. Isabella walked in first, followed by Carlos. They both froze when they saw Maria sitting behind the desk. "Mom?" Isabella's voice was small and confused. "What are you doing here?" "Hello, Isabella." "Carlos." Maria's voice was calm and steady. "How was Europe?" It was nice." Isabella looked around nervously. "But why are you here? Did something happen to the building?" "Oh, nothing happened to the building," Maria said softly. "But something is about to happen in the building." She slid the eviction notice across the desk. Isabella's face went white. "What is this?" "You lied on your rental application. You both did. That breaks your lease agreement." Carlos grabbed the paper. "You can't evict us. We have rights. Who do you think you are?" Maria stood up slowly, all 5 feet 2 inches of her, and looked her son-in-law straight in the eyes. "I'm the owner of this building, Carlos. I have owned it for 10 years. Every month when you pay rent, you've been paying me." Isabella's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. You're just a what, Isabella? Just an old woman you could steal from? Just a mother whose feelings don't matter?" Tears started flowing down Isabella's cheeks. "Mom, I can explain." "Explain what?" "How you sold my beach house without asking. How you sold Thomas's truck. How you hung up on me like I was garbage. We needed the money for the trip. I was going to tell you." "Tell me?" Maria's voice rose for the first time. "You stole from me and hung up the phone." Carlos tried to step forward. "Now wait just a minute." "You wait a minute," Maria said firmly. "You have 30 days to find a new place to live. And Carlos? I called your rental references. The next landlord who calls me will hear about your lies." Isabella fell to her knees. "Please, Mom. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Don't do this to us." Maria looked down at her daughter, the child she had raised with so much love, the young woman she had sacrificed everything for. "Isabella, for 45 years I gave you everything. My time, my energy, my love, my money. I put you first in everything. And the moment you thought I was powerless, you threw me away. I didn't mean, you took my beach house, the place where we made our happiest memories. You took Thomas's truck, the last thing I had of him. You didn't ask. You didn't care. You just took." Maria walked toward the door, then stopped. "But here's what you didn't know, Isabella. Thomas left me $17 million. While you stole $205,000, you left behind $17 million. Isabella's face turned gray. Carlos looked like he might faint. $17 million? The beach house? I can buy 10 more. Thomas's truck? I can buy 100 more. But you know what I can't buy?" Isabella shook her head weakly. "A daughter who truly loves me." Maria opened the door and walked out, leaving Isabella and Carlos staring at their eviction notice. 1 year later, Maria was living in her beautiful beachfront condo, watching the sunset over the ocean. She had everything she needed: comfortable furniture, a garden full of flowers, and peace in her heart. Isabella had called exactly 47 times, begging for forgiveness and money. Maria never answered. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Maria had learned that she was stronger than she ever knew. And Isabella had learned that greed always comes with a price. As Thomas used to say, what goes around comes around. And sometimes it comes around with interest. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in justice. Which part surprised you the most? Maria's hidden fortune or Isabella's ultimate comeuppance? Let us know in the comments below.